and welcome to my channel. My name is Miranda and today I'm going to go over how I use my passion planner to do my financial planning. Before I dive deep, I want to give a quick overview on the two types of planning you can use with a passion planner. Recently there was a blog post, more detail about that, which I will link in the description. I use a kind of combination of both of these styles. So the two styles are functional planning and memory planning. Functional planning is very much anchors of the time track that goes along all of these days really comes in handy. I use that really for my Monday through Friday when thinking of if I have appointments like therapy or wellness coaching, or if I have these like blue block slides of my actual 9 to 5. That is where I think the beauty of the passion planner comes in. And if you are tuning in maybe from a previous video, I have this weekly Undated planner that I've used stickers for. I use the weekly dated planner for my personal use, but because I actually do fill it out very functionally with details of names, first and last, and all of that I do at work, I'm not recording that. So this is a sanitized version, but I also wanted to show kind of what happens towards the end of the week, which is very accustomed to kind of how I use my personal planner. So Monday through Friday, I feel like I need that hour by hour detail, but kind of as it comes to the end of the day or even that end of the week, my social activities or just the things like meal planning and some of my more reflective moments start to fill in this planner. And while I would love to have maybe the example of Wednesday where you can see I'm going and volunteering, I'm having dinner, I'm reading, I kind of have my schedule. I also find that using these stickers or even using this space to have like reflections has been very valuable. When it comes to the weekends, I also found that over the 3 years I've used this, I just like don't put more detail in. I have these stickers from the Earth Day Sustainability Pack that kind of offers just different things to reflect on. And this week I went to Locavore, which is a New York City based shop that specializes in local goods. So I had some reflection time on Saturday and even today, just thinking about, what I want to consume less after some of the activities I did. So I use a blend, and really depending on the amount of time I have and the amount of stickers I feel connected with, I will have either minimalist, like very simple, clean lines, or more of a maximalist approach with a ton of different stickers. There's a lot of ways you can utilize and customize. This is just how I do it, and I find that it's really helpful. So with that, my functional overview, I want to talk about how I'm using my passion planner to do a financial deep dive. Now, I want to open to one of my very first pages that I did, which was a reflection of my financial status over the last 3 years. Give a little bit of background. I work in a company where I'm making around $160,000 every year. My education background is a bachelor's of science in industrial engineering and a master's in business. Now, I grew up in a military family. My parents do not have college degrees, and they were in technology during the first tech bubble burst in the early 2000s. So my life has been one of financial insecurity, food insecurity, housing insecurity. And at this moment right now, I have very much focus on trying to become more financially secure, but more so more financially literate. So part of how I think about my finances is in two buckets. First is the asset cake, these layers of the different types of accounts that I have, how much I have, all of that at this top part, and then the debt cake, the things that I actually need to pay off. And over the last 3 years, my goal has been very much focused on paying myself first by maximizing my 401k, which you see, creating safety nets of savings of 3 to 6 months. I have about 3 months of savings based on my budget, and just really taking the time to start to learn to invest. Part of my compensation package is stock in the company I work for. So that's where you see this brokerage account really starting to balloon, and it's something I want to kind of be mindful of. Of what I make on interest above is something that I wanted to keep in this order. In business school, very early on in the financial classes I was taking, one of my finance professors shared that the way to build generational wealth is through investing. So part of why I want to make sure, I have a visual of all of this is to understand just where and how I'm invested, what are the risks associated with that. And this, I took the time to have every one of these squares, this is on the dotted line, to equal about $1,000. So this is also showing relationally how much is in each account and what would that look like kind of over the next year. I did the similar view of the debt, where debt is, I think, a little bit harder to show. Something that doesn't come on, or I haven't included here, is interest. Interest is really tricky when we think of debt as it relates to credit cards. Those are the highest interest, where my credit cards range from like 25% to 30%. My personal loan, I want to say, is about 13%, and my student loans range from 3% to about 7%. So my first goal is to really hit this credit card interest down. Between last year and the year before, I was paying about $5,000 of interest, and last year I got that all the way down to 0. So I do have a lot of confidence that this momentum will really start to pick up and I will be able to completely erase my credit cards. Now, this being said, the whole exercise, I started with these first 3 just to kind of see, what is this net income movement? What has happened before? What can I do again? But also to think about, what do I want to prioritize? Part of my financial goals for next year starts with paying myself. So number 1 is maximizing that 401k. I'm in a position where I can do that and have my budget. So I'm going to do that again. I also get an employer match, which if I do the full $23,500, my employer will essentially give me a $12,000 bonus. I wanted to be really clear of, okay, if I can do this goal, what will that mean for my net worth? Because ultimately, I am looking at improving my net worth. Going from negative to positive this year fully broke my brain in the best way. It unleashed this perception of how I'm paying off debt and this long-term goal. And your debt can look different, it can look the same, but I think holding that debt payoff is an important part of this journey, is just as important, at least for me, as increasing my net worth and making it go into that positive. My second goal for next year is to just develop more of a financial safety net within my savings. I feel like there's just a good opportunity to start to bump that up. Now, some could say number 3 should be number 2, but I want to focus on the savings just to feel like I have a padding. It's funny that I feel like last year I actually needed to use it, and it felt really frustrating to have that number go lower, but at the same time, that's exactly what it was there for. So as I look into next year, I want to do the same, just kind of plan to already save that. And if I use it, amazing. If it's, not that 16,000 at the end of the year, that's okay, as long as I'm kind of developing that goal. The third and probably the most ambitious goal here is paying off my debt. I have $14,000 above credit card debt, and I want to get that to 0 by the end of the year. That will turn into about $1,200 a month, and as I go through this, you'll see why I started doing this per month. But if I was able to do that, that would also increase my net worth by $14,000. So between the first 3 goals, I'm already looking at about a 50-ish thousand increase of my net worth, which is on par between 2023 and 2024. Now, as I mentioned, I do get stock a part of my compensation. So far, I have been using that stock part of it as gifts to my cousins and to pay off any high interest debt. This is because that amount that's going in my brokerage has been around of a return anywhere from 15 to 20%, which is great, but still not as much as I'm paying on the interest of debt, which is again 20 to 30%. But this year I feel really confident that I'll be able to pay off debt with my cash flow without having to dip into my brokerage. So I'll be able to have a delta of $10,000 that will be able to grow there. So that's not really taking anything from my budget necessarily. That's not why it's not highlighted, but really more of just kind of not touching it, which I want to be mindful of as I kind of go into this year. I know as I went through my 2024 budget, I needed spending rules because the way that I was spending last year was not maybe my best. And I had I feel like a really good year in 2023 and 2024. I loosened up a little. But that being said, as I go into 2025, I want to look for ways to improve. And that for me means no impulse purchases. So for what that looks like, I will often find something on my phone or start to remember at the very last minute that I need to buy something, and I'll go online, get something with 2 day shipping or very quick shipping that's not local, but I could probably find something similar local and pay a premium for it. So as I look to 2025, I don't want to have these impulse purchases. I want to be thoughtful about them. I want them to always be locally sourced and on my wish list for 30 days. So if I do see something and I think I need it, I haven't seen it before, I'm going to hold it for a while and make sure after the 30 days I really, really want it. Now, after 90 days, if I don't do any impulse purchasing, I can get and reward myself with $300 from my EFIT fund. Now, my EFIT fund is a $100 automated fund that kind of exists out of my monthly income. It is something that I've used just kind of to say, hey, I want to spend, or, I want to start kind of saving for things that I know I'll be spending, especially when I think about like the quarterly spending. So I want to be able to kind of set that aside and be mindful of that. Travel spend coming from a travel sinking fund, that's another one that I want to be mindful of. I don't have travel kind of booked in here just yet, but that doesn't mean I can't utilize some of the like bonuses or maybe my tax returns to just have that sinking fund. A big thing I saw in 2024 was that I spent a lot of time eating out. So my number 4 spending rule is no delivery, no takeout. If I'm gonna go out to eat with a restaurant, I have some money set aside to do that every month. I need to go out to that restaurant with friends and just appreciate it. I feel like there's plenty I can do, and I often have plenty of food to make at home, so I don't need to always get food outside. And then lastly, my spending rule around what I call windfalls. So this is going to be my tax returns, if I get any, my bonuses, or just any unexpected money that I haven't planned for outside of my 9 to 5. I've been using those for a while, and I feel like it's been fun to have because it feels like I'm able to accelerate on some of the goals that I have, while also just kind of saving some of my funds for something that I like. I've gotten purses before, I've gotten wellness memberships, I've gotten massages, just something that kind of aligns to what I want to do. Through this year, I want to put it towards these sinking funds, especially like the travel sinking fund or just kind of these personal wellness sinking funds. I find that I won't always have to spend this amount of money, but just to kind of have it aside, have it in the EFIT fund, and also have it growing in a high yield savings account. I feel like that's going to be able to help me just be more mindful about how I'm spending. Now, the ugly / not fun part that took me quite a long time. I've cleaned it up and isolated here, but the budget. Oh my gosh, why are budgets so frustrating? The taxing part of going through every single expense is something that is kind of embarrassing almost, but how I found a way just to kind of anchor from like a zero base perspective, so like starting with absolutely nothing on a page on your Excel sheet and adding actually really helped. So going from that blank space, I first thought about, okay, what are the monthly fixed expenses? These are expenses month after month. I know they're not going to change. That for me is my rent, my utilities. I paid for my family phone bill. I have a personal loan that has a minimum, my credit card and the interest minimum I've put together, and also like insurance, like cat insurance, pet insurance, home insurance, therapy, subscriptions. I know those are never gonna change no matter how much I use them. Whereas I have variable expenses like laundry, transportation, grocery, restaurants, entertainment, fitness, my cat goods, so like any kind of like food or toys, as well as bars and nightlife. I don't spend too much, so these are actually about the averages I spent last year, with the note that I've reduced the amount of restaurant spending. I want to be able to go explore new restaurants in New York City, but I also want to be really mindful of what that budget looks like. So I'm putting $200 a month aside to do that. If my goal here is that if I do have variable spends that I spend less than, I'll actually put it towards my debt, and I'll still kind of pay this amount, as I think most of these will be going on my credit card. Now, I don't get my hair or nails done often, and doing a full deep dive in my skincare and makeup routine, I really find that like at the quarterly level, I can kind of refresh or update as needed. Now these are maximums. I feel like this is still like a lot of money, thinking about like $1,200 a year on skincare and makeup, like that is a lot. So there could be an opportunity to spend less here, but kind of with the same vein of the variable spending, if I do spend less quarterly, that excess will just go to paying off more debt. So in a way, I feel like that's going to help me accomplish some of these loftier goals. I also really reduce the amount of shopping, both personal and household, but I know that I have just like basics that I need. Again, my goal here is to just like think about the reduction of impulse and trying to buy it more locally. And then at the yearly level, I have donations. Something that has made me significantly happier in doing all of my budgets is thinking about how I'm also sharing money, both through formal programs that get matching through my job, but also through mutual aid, and really just like in response to what is happening in the world. This last week, California has experienced wildfires that are catastrophic, and just having some space in my budget to be able to confidently give to GoFundMe's or give to organizations like the World Central Kitchen, it's just nice to have here, and I don't feel like it's taking away from any of my goals. If anything, it's really adding to how I give back. I also wanted to incorporate member fees for any credit cards that I have, membership fees for any museums that I'm a part of, and just kind of thinking about, what am I spending on that yearly cadence that maybe I'm just need to be mindful of. When I had a car, these were also like any kind of yearly inspections and so forth. Now, once I had all of that, I went in through the color coding that I use. I actually will make sure to also incorporate these zebra markers as a link. These are what I use, and I went through everything before. Again, I've been doing this for a couple of years, so you are more than welcome to take this, use it. If it's not for you, develop something different, you're welcome. You go ahead and do that as well. But this connects for me that functional tracking that I showed you at the beginning with also how much money I'm spending and what I'm like spending on. This kind of helps me connect what I'm doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week level with some of the goals that I have. Everyone's finances look different, and this is kind of where I am currently. This can change. I actually expect it to change. My goal here in writing everything down is just to kind of have a snapshot of what I'm thinking through the year. As the year progresses, I will definitely incorporate this into different type of tracking systems. For example, this layout gives a view of where I'm starting, the top accounts or the like areas that I'm hoping to add to. So in terms of incorporating that 401k maximization, getting the brokerage to be around that 20k, having my high yield savings as my savings deposit, or just like my checking balance and a fit fund, that's there. In terms of all of the actual accounts that I want to hit, like I said, I want to really crush this credit card debt, so I'm excited to kind of put this out here. And I, similar to how I did the cakes, wanted to separate it into assets and debt. For some reason that kind of helps me, but if that doesn't help you or you have a different way, definitely comment below. Happy to chat, get ideas, start to bring up that will be helpful here. If you've made it this long, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was everything you thought it would be and more. If there are any questions, please feel free to comment below. Happy planning!